We've gotten very used to the internet. We're constantly sharing information about ourselves and our private lives. Food we eat, people we meet, places we go, and the stuff we read. Let me explain it better. Right at this moment, if someone attempts to look you up, they will see your real identity, precise location, operating system, all the sites you have visited, the browser you used to surf the web, and so much more information about you and your life, which you probably didn't mean to share with unknown strangers who could easily use this data to exploit you. But not if you're using Tor. Tor browser protects our privacy and identity on the internet. Tor secures your connection with 3 layers of encryption and passes it through 3 voluntarily operated servers around the world, which enables us to communicate anonymously over the internet. Tor also protects our data against corporate or government-targeted and mass surveillance. Perhaps you live in a repressive country which tries to control and surveil the internet. Or perhaps you don't want big corporations taking advantage of your personal information. Tor makes all of its users to look the same, which confuses the observer and makes you anonymous. So the more people use the Tor network, the stronger it gets, as it's easier to hide in a crowd of people who look exactly the same. You can bypass the censorship without being worried about the censor knowing what you do on the internet. The ads won't follow you everywhere for months, starting when you first clicked on a product. By using Tor, the sites you visit won't even know who you are and from what part of the world you're visiting them, unless you log in and tell them so. By downloading and using Tor, you can also protect the people who need anonymity, like activists, journalists, and bloggers. So download and use Tor, or run a relay.
Hi, and welcome to Tor's virtual event for Global Encryption Day. My name is Pavel, and I'm the comms director at the Tor project. And for the next 40 to 45 minutes, I'll be moderating this event. As we saw in the video just now, Tor is made possible by thousands of volunteers who run servers across the globe and power the Tor network. We call them Tor relay operators. And today's event is aimed at highlighting their contributions and experiences. But why today? Today is Global Encryption Day, a day organized by the Global Encryption Coalition to promote and defend encryption and access to encrypted services. Tor conducted a user survey earlier this year. to learn more about people's motivations to use encrypted services. And in their own words, I just wanted to highlight why encryption plays a critical role in their lives. For instance, with Luca, who strongly believes that encryption is essential for a healthy democracy, or Naya, who in her work as a journalist needs to ensure that her communications are safe so that she can continue to hold those to account that are in power. Or Tyler, who says it's best that encryption is just common sense and reminds us that encryption is like putting a letter in an envelope before posting it. Yet, despite its vital role in people's lives, encryption continues to be under threat. In 2024, we've seen a continued push to limit or ban encryption outright in some regions, and many governments are putting pressure on service providers to hand over data or build in backdoors. That is concerning, as for many people, encrypted services are the key to unlocking news, social media, or secure communications. In those scenarios, more often than not, Tor is the only service that continues to provide that access. Tor works because it is decentralized and volunteer run, making it difficult for governments or other entities to control or block. Unlike VPNs, which rely on a single central entity that can be pressured or compromised, Tor's network consists of thousands of servers operated by volunteers around the world. This distributed architecture makes it much more resistant to censorship and surveillance, as there is no single point of failure that can be exploited. And even under the most challenging circumstances, onion services act as a last line of defense for encryption. These onion sites and services offer end-to-end encryption and authentication, ensuring that the website that a person is visiting is legitimate and the communication remains private. Examples of organizations that use onion services include news outlets like the New York Times and the BBC, social media platforms like Facebook and Reddit, and human rights organizations like Amnesty International. And speaking of, Tor's status as a human rights nonprofit organization allows us to provide a free and safe alternative to commercial internet services that collect and sell user data. Being a nonprofit means that Tor's mission is not driven by profit, but by advancing rights and protecting privacy. This ensures that Tor remains true to its core values and does not compromise user privacy for commercial gain. Tor's strength lies in its community of champions who allow it to operate independently and resist pressure from commercial interests and governments. And that brings us to why we're here today. In just a bit, you'll hear from some of those champions about what it takes to run a relay during a roundtable discussion that will be hosted by Tor's community lead, Gus. But first, let's kick things off with our first panelists, Anna and Victoria. I'm excited to welcome them to the stage because these two researchers just recently completed a year-long study about the Tor relay operator community, and I'm excited to welcome them. Anna is a former relay operator and a former volunteer for the Tor Network Health team, who now works as a DevOps engineer for various FOSS projects in the digital rights space. She also contributes to standard development in the IATF and is finishing up a PhD in internet engineering. Victoria is a researcher at the intersection of science and technology studies and human-computer interaction, looking at social and technical problems alike. She's currently writing her PhD thesis about consent and data sharing settings, and she is involved in making academic and hack-related events more accessible. She volunteered to help fundraise for the Tor project a while ago before getting recruited to help with the relay operator study. Anna, Vicky, I'm excited to have you. I'm going to toss the baton over to you. Take it away.
Thanks. Thank you for that. So, hi everyone. We're Acute and Vishni, or Anna and Victoria. We're going to quickly talk about a research project called the Tor Relay Operator Community Health Project. So we are here representing SR2 Communications, and we with our researcher hats on. So this project, it was a fellowship funded by OTF. It ran between March last year and June this year. And its aim was to help understand the motivations, the experiences, and in particular, experiences with a geographically diverse view of Tor relay operators. So the aim was to understand the motivations of relay operators in such a way that would help Tor and the Tor's network health team make better decisions about community and community health. And the way we did it was through both quantitative and qualitative methods. So with operator interviews and surveys. So we had a small survey, but what I'm going to briefly talk about today is the main survey. So this is a survey that was aimed at all current relay operators. So we initially estimated we would get like 200 responses, and that's what we did the proposal, but the response has been great, and we ended up with more than double that amount of responses. Most of them came from just cold emailing people, but some of them also came from the Tor Relays mailing list. And something to keep in mind was that the survey was incredibly long, so it took people more than 40 minutes to complete. It had questions on a lot of topics beyond motivation, so including people's views of network health or community participation and so on. So we published a report about this. This is available on the SR2 website. If you read it, it will be a lot more thorough than what we're covering here today. So in terms of demographics, are Tor relay operators. So maybe there are not a lot of surprises here. So a bit more than 2/3 of operators between 18 and 44 years of age. The majority are men who work in either IT or engineering or related field, and who make enough money to afford to run relays in the first place. Most of them live in Europe or North America. So while we didn't ask people directly about their ethnicity, we instead asked them kind of what languages they speak and what countries they spend most of their time in. And it's only 12%, only more than 10% of respondents spoke a language of a language outside of European or English, basically. Even when we look specifically at relays that operated in countries outside of the North, and then we worked out who the operators behind them was, what we found is that the operators of those relays that run in the global North were in fact concentrated in Europe and North America. So this is what you can see here in the graph. And the big circle covers all areas that we targeted, and then the little dots are where the actual operators of the relays were. Next, I'm going to talk about network health. So we asked operators, what does a healthy network look like to them? And the top two ranked options were geographical distribution of relays and operator trust. So that means geographical diversity and basically a network that is run by trusted operators. So based on this, we came up with two categories of metrics that can be used to estimate the relay community health. Diversity and trust. Diversity is a lot easier to track because you can use on you, or I think Metrics has a new API. So you can use data to look at geographical diversity and ISP diversity, and even relay version, basically how quickly people update their relays and so on. And you can look at this data over time as well. But what trust? Trust is a lot more elusive and harder to measure. So you can take something that is a proxy metric for trust, like community engagement. So you can do regular surveys over time to measure community trust. But there's also some community-run schemes. I'm talking here about the authenticated relay operator IDs. So this is a more data-driven way you can verify trust. So an authenticated relay does not necessarily mean it's automatically trusted. So anyways, these are two categories of metrics that you can use to talk about network health. Next up, I'm going to finish with we asked operators what do they struggle with, what are their issues, the pain points. So here you can see results, and they are split between operators who run exits and those who don't. So it looks like running exits is significantly harder, and I guess this is kind of intuitively true, but here you can see actual numbers for exactly how much harder it is. So it's more time consuming, it's more costly, it is more technically challenging, and also for exit operators, there are significantly more abuse complaints. So it's something like over 50% of exit operators experience complaints versus only 5% of non-exit operators experience these. Same for ISP blocks, but almost exclusively it is exit operators that face legal issues. So we're talking about just under a quarter, 23% of exit operators experience legal issues versus only 1% of non-exit operators. Same with feeling a lack of support from the Tor community, where we have 15% for exit operators and only 2% for non-exit. So I'm going to end here, but Victoria will talk a little bit more about the distance between exit and non-exit operators.
Thank you, Anna. So we did conduct a few interviews as well, because we wanted to know more in depth about things. And what we already knew was from our introductory survey and from previous studies that's been done, kind of what the motivations, pain points, and some kind of demographic pointers that we had. And so what we tried to find out with the interviews is like, what's the personal journey that led people to become relay operators? What's the operating style? So how do they operate? What's the political climate in their home country? And what are their community ties? Of course, there's a lot more if you want to read the report, but these are the things I'm focusing on today. And what we try to target as well is like covering all geographic regions, also having different background diversity in there as well. So that also talking to guard, middle, and exit operators alike. And we had some overarching themes talking to people. So one is risk mitigation. One big way of trying to avoid risk is operating non-exit relays. This was quite kind of surprising, but people were very aware that exiting, like using or operating exit relays, will come with potential problems. The other part was obfuscating or hiding behind kind of an institution like a hackspace or a university, so some kind of thing that removed or put a little bit of distance between the person who's operating and an institution. And the exit operators that we talked to, when they had legal or ISP issues, we found that there's often a similar pattern that happens. This is that most of the time people ask them for logs, and then some kind of authority asks them for logs. Then they say, we don't have any, and then this kind of issue goes away, which is most of the time, but not all the time. The biggest difference that we also saw was between the exit and non-exit operation. One part was financial involvement. Non-exit operators, most of the times, already had some kind of infrastructure lying around that wasn't doing much, which they then started to do relay operation on. And as soon as people started exit operating, that's a big hole that you throw money in. Also, there was a big difference between satisfaction in terms of community outreach. While non-exit operators were very low in terms of engaging with the community, their satisfaction with the community outreach was also very high. And the kind of opposite was with the exit operators. Non-exit operators also had quite a big sense of pride in being part of this of the Tor project and doing something good. And exit operators often look down onto non-exit operators, saying that they could do more and or that they should do more. And another divide that we saw was between the global north and the global south. People in the global north have more stable network infrastructures that they rely on, and also more cheaper and accessible internet infrastructures. That's not always the case in the global south. So we interviewed some people in the global south that were running relays in Japan, for example. So even though that was quite expensive for them, it was still cheaper than actually getting internet access to their home in their home country. And while there was a kind of common distrust amongst all operators against like state authorities, the people in the global north were still kind of very secure in the legal infrastructure to protect them to a certain degree, versus that is not the case for the global south. So in the global south, the modus operandi was to not become a target for the state, because then you have to fear arbitrary violence. Also, operators in the global south were all aware of that there is a lot of centralization, both in kind of like internet directories and especially exit operation mainly in the global north, and they would like to see more of that happening in the global south as well. And maybe some key takeaways that we got from the big study that we've done is that there's different support needs for operators. A lot of legal support is very country specific, and there's currently not a lot that can help with that. There should be more connection between initiatives in the global south and the global north, because I think we can help each other out a lot more. And one of the things that some people are already doing, but also I think we could do more, is that people from the global north could look into hosting relays in the global south, because they have the security that they not get prosecuted. In terms of community, we were also seeing that people would really like to have low entry barriers, even lower than they are now, for becoming a relay operator, and that there's kind of a clear path of from non-exit to exit operator. And this would maybe also come with the expansion of the current operator demographic, and that one of the suggestions that been made in the report is that there might be a possibility for automation, especially for non-techie people. And because it's Global Encryption Day, what we're seeing is that even within that study, we have all similar problems, and we face the same threats, but the levels of the threats are different. So people are facing more centralized internet infrastructures, or more monopolization in it, or current push against encryption in many states, like the client-side scanning or chat control that's been happening. And we need to build trusted networks to encounter this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Victoria and Anna. This was extremely insightful. I want to remind people that they can access the full study. We've dropped a link to the study in the chat, and it's also currently displayed on the screen. And yeah, we're very thankful for you to conduct this broad study and get some numerical insights. But now that we've learned a little bit more about that on a broader scale, I want to bring on Gus, Tor's community team lead, to talk to a handful of relay operators that have volunteered their time today to talk to us, to get a little bit more of a personal perspective on the subject matter. So Gus, welcome, and take it away.
Thank you, Pavel. I'm excited to welcome you to today's roundtable discussion. We are going to kick off this debate and talk for the next 15 to 20 minutes before opening up for the audience to ask questions. I encourage you to engage with our panelists, ask questions, and share your thoughts in the chat here in YouTube or social media, so we can discuss them as well. All right, for today, let me introduce you to our incredible group of panelists who bring a wealth of experience and different perspective on the role of Tor relays in supporting internet privacy and freedom, and preserving global access to encrypted servers. So we have today Asia. Asia is a researcher and doctoral student in IT security at the Brandenburg University of Technology. Her university spun up Tor relays after learning about it from EFF, the Tor University Challenge. Gunnar Wolf has been a free software advocate since the 90s and is a long-time Debian developer. He teaches at UNAM in Mexico and is a long-time Tor advocate and has been running relays since 2017. Next, we have Julian, is a sysadmin for Nos Onions a Frisian association that runs large storage nodes. He also maintains the metadata anonymization tool. I love this tool. I use a lot. John is a computer science and privacy advocate who operates multiple Tor relays. So welcome everyone. And to start this debate, I will start with you, John. So the first question that I have, could you tell us a little bit about your motivation to run Tor relays? How did you get started?
Thank you, Gus. My initial motivation to run Tor exit relays came back from curiosity. Back in 2000, I was doing some consulting for the Naval Research Laboratory, and I heard rumblings about the onion routing new technology that they were working on. That kind of, excited me, and I put it back in my brain. And in 2005, I stumbled across the public source code that Nick and Roger had put out, and I started experimenting with it. I played around with it for a while, and eventually life got in the way, and I didn't revisit it for almost a decade. In 2015, I had a friend that was going through a terrible situation with domestic violence and stalking. I introduced her to Tor as a way to protect her privacy online, and so she could access information and resources to help her escape her attacker. That experience brought me back to Tor, and ever since then, I've consistently run a large number of relays because now I understand the firsthand real-world impact that Tor can have in safeguarding people in very vulnerable situations.
Thank you, John. I'm very happy that you are doing so much work for Tor and running all these exit nodes. I think that's we are so happy to have you on the network and on the Tor community, and also because we are hanging out on DEF CON. So thank you a lot for all your work. The next person that I have a question is Julian. Can you please describe quickly your organization work? What are the benefits of running relays in an institutional setting?
I think the main benefit is to not have the police come at 6 a.m. at your place and smash the door. I think that's one of the main motivation we had for launching our nonprofit. But otherwise, on a more serious tone, I think being able to have a group of people, so to spread responsibilities and keep the motivation to run a couple of % of the total capacity of the Tor network is really gratifying versus doing it alone and having to deal with various issues that we might encounter.
And for how long are you running relays?
Oh, on a personal level, a long time, I forgot. But I think Nos Oignons is a bit more than 10 years old, or maybe 12, something like this.
Congratulations. I hope you have a party event to commemorate all these 10 years. And please invite us.
We will.
Okay. Asia, can you describe the motivation and process for your team to set up and maintain a Tor relay at your university?
Yeah, sure. So we met Roger maybe 1 year ago at last PETS conference in 2023, and he taught us about this campaign for the universities. And since we are also doing research in the anonymity area, we decided why not running a Tor relay at the university. And at that so we needed some time such that we can organize this with the university administration. But at some point we managed to do this, and since then we are running this Tor relay.
Thank you for running a Tor relay. I know that sometimes you need to go and talk with different people inside the university to get your relay running. So thank you for all your effort. I will get back to you. I have more questions to the other folks, but I will ask more questions for you. Gunnar, what educational opportunities, such as hands-on, learning or research, have arisen for running a relay? Did you notice an increasing interest in cybersecurity or privacy-related topics?
Well, privacy and network security have always been interesting for the people I work with, mainly for the students. Uh, People know me as a person interested in network security in the university, so I think it's usual for groups that I am a part of to be interested in doing things related to network security, to be sensible to privacy. I have been sometimes even surprised by by students or by academics having initiatives and inviting me to join them. So well, that may be the main reason I have been involved with running Tor relays at my university for about 7 years, and related activities.
Thank you, Gunnar. Thank you all for your work at the university and for running all just relays there. They are very, very important. I remember, for example, one of your relays were very useful for users in Turkmenistan because the IP block was not blocked in Turkmenistan. So when we learned about that, I reached out to you and asked, can you run a bridge on that IP address too, so we can share with users? So thank you a lot for running relays in the university. I have more questions for you, John. Um, from your perspective, how does running a Tor relay contribute to defending free speech and internet privacy globally?
Wow, that's a political mouthful here in the United States. Running a Tor relay for me, at least, is like a political stance in support of privacy, free speech, and open internet. Um, I see it as my way of pushing back against a growing tide of government and surveillance and corporate data collection, at least especially here in the United States, but corporately. By operating a relay, I'm helping a lot of people, um, especially those living in oppressive regimes. And that may not be your typical where you think it's oppressive. It's oppressive actually everywhere, uh, whether it's popular or not, to say that. So they can access uncensored information and express their fears or express their views without fear of being monitored or silenced. It's about defending the principle that privacy is a basic human right. Uh, Individuals should be able to explore and communicate on the internet freely. Um, in a world where censorship and digital authoritarianism is becoming more common, running a Tor relay is my way of supporting a more open and democratic internet. That's basically where I'm at.
Thank you, John. I completely agree with you. Julian, have you received any feedback from individuals or communities that have directly benefited from the service provided by your organization?
I don't think we ever had these kind of things, but we regularly have people. Well, we're donation based, so I guess people are finding value in what we're doing and supporting us by giving us money and time and whatever cryptocurrency they're using. But we never got a postcard from someone. I would love to get some.
I will work on that. Usually, when we do Tor relay meetups, like in person, I usually show who is running relays because this is a very common question from the audience. Like, oh, who is running these relays? Because probably is the a spy agency or something like that. And I tell them like, no, probably not. I know these operators. They are very great people. They are amazing. They have been fighting for free speech and privacy online. So I will work on that, and I will get some postcards from people in these trainings and meetups. So wait, I will
We
get
are
some back.
actually sending postcards. Like if you give us
Oh
enough
yes,
money, you can get either posters or you can get some postcards. So but we never got some postcard back.
okay, yeah, let's work on that. I have two more questions. Asia, Elsa, what's your message to other universities and students? What make university a great place to run, a great location to run relays?
So to To be honest, before this presentation that we saw, I didn't have really nice answer. But now I can tell you that at the university you can get more support. So one of the issues mentioned at the in the presentation earlier, that there is lack of a support from the Tor community, and I think at the university you can get this support either from the professors who are working in this area, because usually you have at least one professor at the technical university where who is familiar with Tor. And the second thing is you can find also a support from your colleagues, from other students. You can get also a support from the technicians. And if you have good luck, you can get also hardware where you can run this Tor relay. You should not fund this by your own.
Thank you. And for you, Gunnar, what makes the university a great location to run relays?
Well, I would say it's mainly two factors that I would weigh in. First, we have, at least in my country, the universities have great network. So, in fact, I had to limit my relays because there was too much bandwidth available, and I was called by the central network operators because I was giving too much continuous use of it. So they were worried whether we had some kind of malware. Fortunately, also they understood that what we're doing is to support a valid usage of the network. I have formal authorization to run some relays, and that's great. We're currently running 2 relays at my site and 1 more relay at the laboratory in the Litsol, the free software research and development lab in the engineering faculty. And well, they are officially running, so that's something very good. And the second part is that getting students involved is very good. Not only because they learned well, it's very easy to operate a relay. It doesn't require much from the operators. That's something they learn, but they also learn why I am doing this, and they adopt that interest. They want to help to foster a free network.
Thank you, Gunnar. Yes, I was this weekend at talking with some students, and they were very interested on running a relay, and they were like, "How do I start?" And I think having if you have this great opportunity to have a professor like you on a university that cares about free software, that cares about privacy, and that's running a relay is like the best scenario. But in some cases, you need to, as a student, you are responsible for pitching this idea and try to find a teacher, a professor to host this relay. So thank you for all your work that you and Asia are doing on your universities. I think that's one way to build community in this space and in teaching about what's the value of running a relay, what's the value of running, why Tor is important. And I think that's the main question that we are all talking here from different perspectives. So I have one more question for everyone. And I think we can go here by order, first with John and then end with Gunnar. I'm sure that there are other topics that we could talk about running relays and why TORS is so important. But for those that are watching, um, but they are still hesitant to run a relay, in your own words, how you would convince them why now is the best time to run a relay and contribute to the Tor network? John,
I think now is the best time to run a Tor relay, exit or otherwise, because there is such a great need globally for people to be protected. Of course, my personal interest in this is helping domestic violence victims and people who are being persecuted. You have no idea, well, some of you may, but a lot of the people out there may have no idea how important it is to be able to speak freely, especially when you're in a situation where you've got someone who's literally hurting you over your shoulder, looking at, or after you use the computer, they're looking at your history and all that stuff. So able to provide a path for them to get the resources they need, communicate with loved ones in a different country or state to flee. It's so important. There are many other reasons to have journalists and whistleblowers be able to tell really what's happening. Gosh, I think of a million reasons why you should start a relay now. If you have the extra bandwidth, especially like me, I'm an ISP. I don't have to answer anybody. It's my bandwidth. If you run an ISP and you're watching, fire up 10 relays. It doesn't take very long. Run them on VMware if you have to. It costs you nothing, literally nothing to do this. You already have the bandwidth. You already have the extra power. You have no excuse not to do this. So you get a few more, upstream complaints from your upstream providers. Big deal. It's no different than anything else you get. I'm speaking to you, ISPs. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Julian, why now is the best time to run a relay?
Because computers are cheap. They used to be expensive back in the day. But also, I started running relay as a student. And it's a lot of fun. Like you're toying with, if you like the technical part, you're toying with like networking equipment, CPU, micro optimization, if you want to. It's a lot of fun, and you're part of something. You're not just someone with a computer. You're part of a network, and you're doing this for good instead of, I don't know, mining Bitcoin or whatnot. So I think this is for the technical part. And for the social one, I think everyone is more or less worried about the state of the world, and having the possibility to run relays and to crave some little part of freedom to experiment there is really interesting. This is also what I really like as a student, to experiment with social parts. Also, it's that simple. Like if you have a computer at home, odds are you can run a relay or a bridge. And so Nozonion, we went together to run exit relays, because, as I said, it's sometimes annoying to run exit relays. So this is the best part. I think it's a great hobby, I guess, for you and your friends to band together and create small nonprofits and whatnot, and run some exit relays and watch eagerly the small percents grow up. Like, oh, we are handling 1% of the Tor network. Wow, we matter. You can see the impact. And also, you together stronger, of course. Nozonion is focusing on on fostering the diversity of the network, as you asked previously. I think to Gunnar, what are great places to run relays? I think there are, as John said, some small ISPs that are harder to monitor, for example, because OVH in France or Scaleway or whatnot have a lot of relay concentration there. And so if someone were to tap the optical fiber of OVH, they would have a significant view of what is happening in the Tor network. And if you go to small ISP or maybe exotic ones, first of all, they will be really happy that there are a fellow nerd that is coming to them and want to use the bandwidth. And usually you have more human relationship with them. So it's easier to deploy relay there and to grow the diversity of the network. So yeah, the technical part is really fun and the social one is really interesting. So I think the best time was yesterday and the second best time is today to run relays.
Thank you, Julian. Completely agree. Asia, for you, why now is the best time to run a Tor relay and contribute with the Tor network?
Why now? From research point of view, I would say there is more and more research in this area, and I, as a person who is working at the university, I think we have also more students that we can that who we can where we can promote this, and I think they are interested in this as well, since they see this is not just some theoretical concept that they see during the lecture, but also that this concept works in practice.
Thank you. And for you, Gunnar, why now?
Well, because it's always a good idea to help. It's always a good idea to put some of the resources you have to good use. And regardless of whether there is a political conflict or situation that forces the people of several of the any given jurisdiction to hide their activities, well, there's always personal needs, or it should be just natural for people to want to be anonymous. And in order to be anonymous, we all need help from the others. Given how the network is designed, we need an overlay network. We need something like Tor. So why help? Because at some point I want to be helped as well. The only way to help the world is by doing so.
Thank you, Gunnar. I love that. Yes, you need to be anonymous, you need help from others. You cannot be alone by yourself. You need diversity, you need people running relays, different countries, you need different users. So thank you for bringing this topic. And I think it's time to wrap up the panel. I want to thank you, Asia, John, Julian, and Gunnar for your participation and for running relays and contributing with the Tor network. Thank you a lot. And I pass over to you, Pavel.
Well, thank you, Gus. And thanks again to all the panelists. I just want to very quickly give people the opportunity to post some questions in the chat. So if you haven't done already and you have a question for our panelists, please drop them in the chat right now. I see that the discussion is around bridges and access to bridges. But before there, earlier today, in an earlier segment, we had a question about network health. And maybe, Gus, you can say one or two words about how we're dealing with network health and some of the initiatives we've introduced.
Yeah, for sure. We very recently we published a framework for running investigations using the open source protocol from Berkeley. Is a framework for running investigation on the Tor network in the Tor network. So you can find bad relays, you can find anomalies on the network, or other behaviors that maybe is a mystery. Because it's a decentralized network, you can find censorship. You can have parts of the network that are not communicating with other relays. You can have bad relays, and we have a very clear criteria on bad relays. So this framework can help not only the network health team on the Tor project to find bad relays and remove bad relays, but also the community can be empowered to find and to execute investigations on the network. It's important to say that this is not about identifying users, it's about finding malicious operators on the Tor network. So this is not about the anonymization of users. It's about finding people that are doing something malicious on the Tor network level. So we launched this framework last week, and it's open for consultation. So please read this document. It's open on our GitLab. And I suggest you to join the Tor Relays mailing list, because this is how we are communicating with the relay operators community.
Great. Well, thank you so much. we're almost at time, so I want to release our panelists and thank them again. If any questions come up later, feel free to engage with us on social, post them, send us a DM, or even send us a message to frontdesk@torproject.org. There are various ways of getting in touch with us, and maybe we can also relay a question or two to the panelists. So at this point, I want to thank everybody for joining today, and I think, Gus, I'll toss it over to you with a couple of final words about how to run relays for those who have caught the bug, as we say in English.
Yeah, so to run a relay is one way to contribute with the Tor network. Can you pass the slide, Pavel? Yeah, and we have this documentation. So one thing that's very important is to always use the official documentation that's available on the Tor project. We have guides for different operating system, BSD, Linux, Windows. Some people will say why Windows is because it's important for diversity. So we have different guides for different operating system. We have one presentation that you can follow and read more about relays, how to run a relay, and how to technically set up. This is available on the community portal. So it's very important to not follow non-official documentation, because we don't know what people are going to try to make you run on your system. So always, please use the official Tor Relay guide. Do not read a random blog on the internet and try to run a relay. Please use the official guide. The second thing, after you deciding if you want to run a a non-exit node or a exit node, you need to decide where you are going to run this relay. And the Tor community provided a very good list of resources. This list is being used even by other projects. I have seen people from cryptocurrency projects using this list to say, hey, these providers, they are good providers, and you can run, let's say, Bitcoin nodes and other infra that needs or requires privacy. So you need to check. You can use this list. As Julian was saying, we have a lot of relays on some providers, and you should avoid these providers. I mean, if you are up to run a relay, try to run in a provider that's not overcrowded, because we don't want a centralized network. So if you have a contact with an internet provider but it's not on that list, what you need to do, you need to you need to read their terms of service, and you need to ask them. So you need to open a support request on their website and ask them, hey, I'm interested in running a relay, and this relay is a non-exit, or this relay is an exit node. Is it fine for me to run this relay, or this is not allowed on your network? So you need to ask the provider, and if they approve, then you can just run that relay. I think that's very important, because sometimes some providers, they don't allow running a Tor node, and then people just run, uh, and the problem is they will shut down your relay if they don't allow. You can find the list of servers, the list of internet providers on the community portal. Just call the Good Bad ISPs page, and it's crowdsourced. It's based on the community that is giving reviews and sharing their experience with these providers. Next slide. Recommendation. If you want to run a relay at home and you only have that IP address, my recommendation and our recommendation is to use that to run a Snowflake proxy. We didn't talk today about Snowflake, but Snowflake is a very easy way to help others to bypass censorship. So if you don't have a static IPv4 address, if you want to try and see how to contribute with the Tor network, the easiest way is to run a Snowflake proxy. You can find more information about Snowflake at snowflake.torproj.org. If you have a VPS or if you have an internet provider, access to an internet provider, as John was saying, you can run a relay, and that won't take a long time. If you are familiar with Docker or other system administration tools, that will require just some minutes. So it's very easy to run a relay. My recommendation is always to start with a Snowflake proxy, or if you have IPv4 address, a dedicated IPv4 address, you can use to run a relay. I recommend running a non-exit node, so you don't need to deal with legal complaints from people using your exit to download torrents, for example. So it's my quick recommendation, and also to join us on the Tor Relay mailing list. This weekend we will have the Tor Relay Operator Meetup. It's an online event where operators can talk and share their experience, but also ask questions and learn more about the network health, what we are doing to improve the network health. You can learn more about censorship, how Tor is blocked in some countries, and how you can help people to bypass the censorship. So yeah, welcome to. I hope you like this event, and I invite you to join the Tor community if you are still not part of our network and our forum and mailing lists. So please join us and be part of this. As you can see, many people need Tor for different use cases. So let's help these folks to for their privacy and anonymity online.
Thank you so much, Gus. And I also want to point everybody to our blog and our most recent blog post, because this is only one of the few events that we'll be hosting throughout the next couple of weeks. So mark your calendars for November 13th, where we'll host our annual State of the Onion, the Tor Day, where we will present updates about what we've been up to this year. And on November 20th, we'll have the Community Day, where we will talk about updates from the Tor community. And I hope to see everybody soon. Thanks so much for joining today, and have a great rest of your day. Bye.
Thank you, Pavel. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.